The nation's leader says the countdown is on to the general election and Bahamians should be determining who is best to lead the nation at this time. Good evening, everyone. I'm LaDawn Davis. Thanks so much for tuning in. Topping the news tonight, the Prime Minister says Bahamians ought to take time out to consider what is really in the best interest of this country, as the election bell could be ringing anytime soon. Clint Watson reports.
Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie says a major priority right now as the election campaign shifts into high gear is for the Progressive Liberal Party to set itself apart from the rest.
To try to distinguish ourselves from the opposition party, the level of leadership that I'm providing to distinguish that level of leadership from the alternatives, Dr. Minnis and Brian McCartney, that to be able to show very clearly that people have a real choice to make, and that if they think it through carefully, the choice would be obvious, would be most certainly the position taken by the Progressive Liberal Party.
And according to the nation's leader, with the country fighting back into economic normalcy, it is imperative for the next leader to be one who can take on the intricacies of the job without causing harm. And in his view, there is no candidate other than himself capable of doing just that.
If one looked at the major party, the FNM, they're led by someone who has found it difficult to demonstrate a capacity to lead even a small group of persons in the House of Assembly. They have really some questions to ask Dr. Minnis. The missteps, the mistakes, the insensitivity to his own members that has resulted in a revolt against him demonstrates that there is a need for him to take a little bit longer to mature politically and mature in decision-making politically.
Mr. Christie says leadership is about exercising judgment that will not frighten people.
As a Bahamian, look to leadership of Dr. Minnis, you ought to be frightened of the potential for him to be elected now, because he has not demonstrated any degree of capacity to govern, really, in effect. And it is for me to say that and to say it as someone who's obviously a protagonist and someone whose job he's obviously trying to take. And he's going to, whoever wins will be the Prime Minister for the country. And I'm trying to see how that I must work 10 times as hard as I ordinarily would work just to prevent him from being there, because I shouldn't do that to the country.
The Prime Minister also commented on that incident last week in the Golden Isles constituency involving supporters of the Progressive Liberal Party and the Free National Movement. He's calling on all Bahamians to demonstrate peace during the campaign season.
That I think it's sort of driven by anger and division. At all costs, we must avoid that. We must therefore try our best to go the opposite way. Try our best not to have our supporters confront each other. We don't need further demonstrations of how difficult it is for conflict resolution here in our country. And again, our country has a reputation. See, and this is what I want to make. We have a reputation that we can make changes, and we make changes peacefully, all right? And that the day after general elections, we go right back to governing the country. That is what our country's reputation is. That has to be reinforced in this general election, that even though I may say things about Minnis as to his unfitness to govern, and he says the same thing to me, at the end of the day there has to be a degree of understanding, okay, that we must not take our supporters to a point where they are unable to reason or even understand what we're doing.
The PLP leader is reminding residents not to delay getting registered. He says Bahamians should notice signs and decisions being made that indicate the general election is near.
When people see me hit the streets, which will be very shortly, meaning spending hours walking, then they know. They should know then.
Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.